There are some crazy things going down in the content creator sphere right now. The Department of Justice just unsealed a bombshell new indictment, and it alleges that content creators like Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and a few others have been unwittingly taking money from Russia. This has been a concerted effort by the Kremlin to sow division and chaos in this country, all while trying to influence the 2024 election. So let's go ahead and take a look at an overview of this case really quick, and then we will look at a couple snippets from the indictment itself.
Here is the gist of it. The indictment alleges that two people working for Putin's favorite media outlet in Moscow, RT, funneled around $10 million to a Tennessee-based company, exactly matching the description of Tenet Media. It was founded by right-wing YouTuber Lauren Chen and her husband Liam Donovan. The company then distributed the money to its stable of content creators. The influencers on Tenet's book include Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson. The indictment does not say that Moscow told the influencers themselves directly what to say. Today, Pool and some of the others addressed the issue and said they were duped by the Russians, the very definition, according to some, of a useful idiot.
Did you read the indictment? It clearly says that I, as well as the other personalities, were victims. We were deceived by people intentionally to trick us.
So it is important to note that as of now, according to the indictment, that these content creators like Tim Pool had no knowledge that the money that was funding this project was coming from Russia. But I think that is a completely different story when we talk about the actual founders of Tenet Media itself. Lauren Chen and her husband Liam Donovan blatantly knew that this money was coming from Russia. There's many parts in the indictment that prove this to be true, and we can go ahead and take a look at this particular excerpt right here, where it says, despite describing Tenet Media investor to Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 as Edward Gregorian, a purported finance professional in Western Europe, Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan admitted to each other in their private communications that their investors were in truth and in fact the Russians, the same term that Lauren and Liam previously used to refer to RT while working directly under contract with RT, as described above in the indictment. So Lauren and her husband used to do some work for RT before their Western assets got shut down after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so they do have some understanding of working with the Russians, and this indictment makes it clear that they had a pretty good idea that the funding for this Tenet Media project was also coming from Russia. We can go ahead and move on and talk about the actual money that was involved here. The indictment lays out nearly $10 million to fund this operation, but when we're talking about the creators themselves, it says eventually they did a deal. Benny Johnson would unknowingly work for the Russians for $400,000 per month in exchange for 4 monthly videos, plus a $100,000 signing bonus. Pool also agreed to $100,000 a video, but no bonus. So we're not talking about just hundreds of dollars here. This amounts to a couple $1 million per year. This is quite a bit of money, even for content creators the size of Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, and others. And my main question is, if there is this much money on the table for these content creators, why wasn't there more due diligence into where this money was coming from? Did they just take Lauren and Liam's word that this Edward Gregorian was a real person and a real finance person from Western Europe? It seems to me like there should have been much more due diligence about where this actual money was coming from. So I don't know that I let these creators off the hook scot-free. And for them to be coming out here and claiming that they are victims, I'm not a huge fan of. I think that they should be releasing their communications with Tenet Media, and if they want to prove to us further that they are victims, I'm willing to listen to them. But I do think there is some culpability if you're not doing the due diligence to see where these millions of dollars are coming from. And the indictment also lays out that there was no direct editorial control, but there were different instances where these two Russia Today people were kind of pushing these content creators in a certain directions as far as what type of stories to cover. We can go ahead and take a look at this. The Russians wanted them to post the Tucker Carlson grocery video, but they thought it was obvious, or it was too obviously shilling. Lauren Chen said to post it anyway. Directly from the indictment, it says, on or about February 15th, 2024, Afanasyeva, or speaking as Helena Shudra, shared with Tenet Media a video of a well-known U.S. political commentator visiting a grocery store in Russia. Afanasyeva posted the video in the producer Discord channel. Later that day, producer 1 privately messaged founder 2, Liam Donovan, on Discord and said, "They want me to post this?" referencing the video, but it feels like overt shilling. Liam Donovan replied that Lauren Chen thinks we should put it out there anyway. Producer 1 acquiesced, responding, "All right, I'll put it out tomorrow." So as you can see, maybe they weren't telling these guys the exact words to say, but they were giving some direction as far as what content to cover, coming directly from Russia. I think that is a problem. They also talked about how they should cover the Moscow terrorist attack, directly from the indictment again. The next day, on or about March 23rd, 2024, Afanasyeva, as Helena Shudra, privately messaged Lauren Chen on Discord asking that one of our creators record something about the Moscow terror attack. Despite public reporting that foreign terrorist organization ISIS had claimed responsibility for the attack, Afanasyeva requested that Tenet Media blame Ukraine and the United States. Writing, "I think we can focus on the Ukraine-US angle. The mainstream media spread fake news that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS itself never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they were heading to the border with Ukraine, which makes it even more suspicious they would want to go to Ukraine to hide." Lauren Chen responded that she would ask Commentator 3, and the next day confirmed that Commentator 3 said he was happy to cover it. This is just gross. Ukraine and the United States had no involvement in that Moscow terrorist attack. As horrible as an incident that was, it is not fair to put any of that blame on the U.S. or especially Ukraine. But obviously these people from Russia Today had some editorial control over the types of stories that they wanted to cover. And is it really that big a surprise that they were targeting these quote-unquote conservative content creators? Especially when we look at something like this from Tim Pool.
And they know it. But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
This is an absolutely unhinged take. Do I think that Tim Pool came to this conclusion all by himself? Or is he surrounding himself with Russian-backed assets that might be putting these types of ideas in his head? It doesn't seem to me that Tim Pool could come to this conclusion with his own due diligence and research. This is absolutely unhinged. Trying to say that we need to apologize to Russia? This is absolutely disgusting stuff. I view it as un-American. This is nearly like traitor behavior. So I really hope we find out in the coming weeks and months that maybe Tim Pool had no idea, and he's being honest about that. But that doesn't discount the fact that these are the types of talking points that he is pushing on a weekly basis. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I am bothered, to say the least. But I think this is just going to be the first shoe to drop. I think I want to, give a shout out to the FBI for being on this. It took them less than a year to track this stuff down and get indictments. I think that is an impressive thing to do. So shout out to the FBI for being on this type of stuff. Shout out to the Biden administration for cracking down on this type of election disinformation. And we need to just come together. Americans should be able to unite against our enemy called Russia. But instead, we have Russia itself embedding itself into our media ecosystem and spreading their Russian talking points through people like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson. Very disheartening stuff. I just hope that one day we can all get back to some sort of shared reality where we're all having discussions based off the same set of facts instead of letting Russia interfere so heavily in our political discourse. So that's going to do it for me on this one, folks. If you got anything out of this video, if you could remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe, maybe share it with a friend or two, I'd very much appreciate that. If you think I got something wrong, or if you disagree with me about something, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you want to learn about Project 2025's dystopian future for reproductive rights, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. And I will see you guys on the next one.